Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Wednesday, July 2nd if you're joining me for the very first time. First of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. When we go over my core picks, it's going to be 5 players in total, 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. After that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Wednesday's slate overall. And then in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report that I have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will also be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be sure that you are checking up down in that comment section so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information as possible. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the core picks for today. We're going to start off at that pitcher position. I'm going with Clayton Kershaw here at $8,500, and he's currently averaging 24.5 fantasy points per game so far in the season. Obviously, a little bit slower start for him, but the last couple of starts have been really good for him. Very attractive matchup versus the Chicago White Sox. Doesn't have a long list history versus them in the past, but that could be something that works in his favor at the same time as well. And if we take a look at what Clayton Kershaw has done so far this season, 4 wins. He has an ERA just over 3 at 3.03. And once again, averaging about 24.5 fantasy points per game at $8,500. But like I said, his 3 or 4 most recent starts have been very good overall. Then we're going to move down to our hitters. We're going to start off at first base with Christian Walker, $3,400, averaging just under 8 fantasy points per game all the season. Goes against the Colorado Rockies. This game is out at Coors Field, and Austin Gomber is the expected starting pitcher for this Rockies team, and Christian Walker has fared very well against him throughout his career. 7 for 17 with 2 home runs versus Austin Gomber. He has at least 1 hit in 3 out of his last 4 games. However, 0 multi-hit games, 0 home runs, 0 double-digit performances during that time span. So the hope here is that the past history works out more than the recent history for Christian Walker. So if you don't want to play him, I definitely do understand it, but he is a very interesting piece, especially for a Houston Astros stack for today's slate just in general. And if we look at what he's done so far on the season, .213 batting average, 10 home runs, 37 RBIs, once again averaging just under 8 fantasy points per game at $3,400. Then we're going to move down to second base with Bryce Terang of the Milwaukee Brewers, $3,100, averaging just over 10.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the New York Mets, and the expected starting pitcher for them is going to be Blake Tidwell for this game. So Tidwell has no career experience versus the Brewers or Bryce Terang, so no history there to write home about, but Bryce Terang's been doing really well as of late. 13-game hitting streak as we do speak, 7 multi games during the time span, 1 home run, 7 double-digit performances, and 10 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So definitely do like the floor that he offers, as well as some potential upside at the same time as well. He currently has a .289 batting average, 5 home runs, 35 RBIs, once again averaging just over 10.5 fantasy points per game at $3,100. And I will note that the Milwaukee Brewers game, it will be the second half of a doubleheader. So we'll see whether or not they keep that on the FanDuel slate or not. So there is a chance that, we lose the Brewers, which look like a really good team to stack just in general for the slate. And if that's the case, then we don't play Bryce Terang. But I do think that Jose Altuve would be a nice replacement piece if that ultimately ends up being the case. He's 4 for 6 with 1 home run in his career versus Austin Gomber, the expected starting pitcher for the Rockies. So if you want to play him instead, if we lose the Brewers team, or if you want to go with a little bit more of a Houston Astros stack, that is something I want to mention just in general. And then we're going to move down to third base with another Houston Astro, Isaac Paredes at $3,900, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Colorado Rockies. Obviously still facing Austin Gomber. 4 for 7 with 1 home run versus Austin Gomber in his career. And if we look at what Paredes has done as of late, currently on a 3-game hitting streak, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, 1 double-digit performance, in 2 games at least 9 fantasy points or higher. And if we look at what he's done so far on the season, .254 batting average, 17 home runs, 46 RBIs, once again averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game at $3,900. And then last but not least, we're moving down to the outfield with Cody Bellinger at $3,300, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He goes against the Toronto Blue Jays. It is Jose Berrios on the mound, who's been pitching pretty well as of late. But in his career versus Jose Berrios, he is 4 for 6 with 1 home run. And currently, Cody Bellinger is on a 7-game hitting streak, 3 multi-hit games during that time span, 2 home runs, and 4 double-digit performances. So definitely do like that history versus Jose Berrios, as well as some of what he's done as of late. If we look at what Cody Bellinger's done in totality on the season, .268 batting average, 12 home runs, 43 RBIs, once again averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game at $3,300. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $12,800 remaining. $3,200 remaining per player. So it's currently looking a little bit more like a balanced build type of day, but definitely feel free to get creative. It's a 10-game main slate on a Wednesday, which is a little bit bigger than some of the main slates that we have seen on Wednesday in past weeks. So definitely feel free to use that creativity, mix and match some of those stacks as well as pitching options just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Wednesday's slate overall. So we're going to start off with the Houston Astros. Obviously, a bunch of them in the core picks, 2, potentially 3 if that Brewers game gets knocked off. Going against Austin Gomber, some pretty good history there in the past. Coors Field effect. It's going to look like a really good matchup for this Astros team just in general. Then we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're going against the Chicago White Sox, and it's going to be Sean Burke starting for the White Sox. No history for the Dodgers for Sean Burke in the past, but he is a guy that is very hittable. Kind of depends on the start, kind of depends on how his stuff's playing up, but if his fastball's flat, it is going to be a rough day for the White Sox team, and it's going to be a really good day for that Dodgers lineup just in general. And then we have the Los Angeles Angels going against the Atlanta Braves. Dieter Fuentes making his 3rd career start. He has not been good whatsoever so far. Angels have no history versus him in the past, but some decent upside there at that. And then last but not least, we have the Milwaukee Brewers team. If they stay on the slate, potentially being the second half of a doubleheader, FanDuel might ultimately end up taking off. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Keep an eye on that. We'll probably try to leave an update down in the comment section for that as well. But that second game is expected to be against Blade Tidwell. No history versus the Brewers in the past. He's obviously a young player making, I believe, like his 3rd or 4th career start. So definitely do like the upside of that Brewers team just in general. And they've been hitting the ball really well as of late. But with that being said, these are my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for Wednesday, July 2nd. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report. They'll have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely make sure that you are checking up down in that comment section so that you do have the most up-to-date information as possible. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. Obviously, we missed Monday this week. Next week, there will not be a video on Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to be out of town for the 4th of July, so we'll get caught up for Wednesday through Friday next week. But that is kind of the schedule moving forward. And then I do also have my CFL DFS video dropping once a week. That typically comes out on Wednesdays. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're into as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Wednesday, July 2nd.